Chris Scalzi here with
Chris Esposito.
Jesus Christ. How long you been gone that you miss your cues? You're like Matt. It's like Matt's still here because half the time he misses his cue as well. Chris Scalzi is here with one of the original hosts. There you go. With the original host, Chris Esposito of the first run. Matt again is MIA. Not that I care. I don't care anymore. I'm not taking it personally. This week, Chris and I, and listen, it's perfect that Espo is here. Because out of everybody I know, Espo, I think, is the authority, or at least he's the biggest fan that I know of the Halloween franchise. So we'll be discussing David Gordon Green and Danny McBride's sequel / kind of revitalization of Halloween. We're also going to talk about a new film on Netflix called Malevolent, which is a British import. And then it's going to be the return of the lounge, where I'm going to pick Espo's brain, and we're going to get into the Halloween franchise itself. I made a big commitment, Espo, for you too. I have never seen 4, 5, and 6, and I watched them all in anticipation of this show tonight. We're gonna rank them. I got some questions for you. We got a lot to talk about. So let's start off with a clip from the new Halloween 2018.
Michael, I've got some people who'd like to meet you.
Hello, Michael. My name is Aaron Corey. I've been following your case for years and still know very little about you. I'd like to know more about that night, about those involved. Do you ever think about them, Michael? Feel guilt about their fate? I borrowed something from a friend at the Attorney General's office, Michael. You feel it, don't you, Michael?
Did you feel it? Sorry, so here we are, Espo. And I think I got so flustered by the opening of the show, I don't know if I announced what show this is. Did I do that? It's the first run. It's the first run, and thank you for listening. Also, too, I have some bad news for everybody. We were supposed to have me as many reviews here from Twitter. She was doing the same thing I did. Well, I think she was watching all the Halloween movies. And unfortunately, she got a bit by the sick bug and unfortunately had to bail out. So though we desperately miss her, we're going to have her on soon. So sorry, Mia, we couldn't grab you this time, but you'll be back. Or here for the first time. Either way. All right, Espo. Here's my big question for you. So Halloween 2018. Is a direct sequel to the original film, right? So we've wiped out every other Halloween movie except for this one. So it's 40 years later. Michael's just escaped from the asylum or the whatever it is. And he's come back basically to finish the job and kill as many people as he can. So is this the sequel the franchise has always deserved?
I think that's a really complicated question. And probably I'd have to say yes and no. The sequel that we got originally, the Halloween 2 from 1979 or
81, I think.
Was it 81?
I believe so.
That one was.
Who's the Halloween super fan now?
Well, that one was excellent. I love Halloween 2, and the thing that I loved most about it was that it built on the whole storyline. It added to the mythology of Michael Myers in ways that actually made sense when they went way off track with some of the other ones. But Halloween 2 had some positive contributions to the story and to the character development. This one is far superior. This new one is far superior in many ways. But I don't think we could have had this one, 40 years ago or 38 years ago or whatever it was. Because this one accounts for all the time that's passed, and that's actually part of the story, is all the time that has passed, and the characters have aged and they've grown up or lived with this fear for their entire lives. Mm-hmm. So I think that they're both very powerful sequels, but they're not. It's not apples to apples. So
okay. Well, I think maybe I'll share my thoughts on that once we get into the lounge segment about all of this. So I got one thing I got to tell you I was happy about, that we've basically jettisoned all the complicated supernatural elements that some of the later sequels have introduced. I think that this franchise is at its best when it's a lean, mean horror machine. Because one of the big successes of the first film is how Carpenter is able to plant this terrifying film in your backyard, right? The way he shoots this thing, it feels like it's in your neighborhood and that this could happen to you. So I think that is a great thing for this franchise to get back to. Now, I will say, I didn't exactly feel that this was a fresh, brand new film compared to the original. I don't know if it's hamstrung by trying to play homage to the original, though I will say it was done for me exceptionally well. Particularly, I think Jamie Curtis. I think she really shines in this role as Laurie Strode coming back again. And how she's experienced this unimaginable horror. And this is how she dealt with it, right? Sarah Connor style. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I thought she did an excellent job. It was cool to see her brought back in such a just a positive way. I mean, they could have just had her back for a 5-minute cameo, but she came back as the star of the show, which she should be. So
yeah, and then they tried to a reboot right with H2O. That was 20 years later, which was a sequel that wiped out 3 through 6, but 2 was still canon for H2O, right? Am I right about that? Because she is still
yes, it was. Yes, it was. Right.
Because that's one of the things they do here is they take out the fact that and this is not a spoiler, it's in the trailer, that they're not related, that she's not his brother or his sister, whatever. So, which I think is the right idea. I like the fact that it's more random.
I have a sorry, go ahead.
Because when I rewatched the first film again last week too, in anticipation of jumping to see this, because this is now a direct sequel, right? So I wanted to revisit that one again too. And I like the fact that, he's standing in the house looking at her as she's dropping off the keys. And as she walks away, she's singing that just the two of us, or it's just you and me type thing. And like, for me, that's what hooks him in to want to possess and then destroy her. So we don't need that extra, I'm out to massacre my family type thing.
Yeah. I agree. And I was glad that they didn't include it, but at the same time, it was I found it a little bit hard to understand why he was still coming. I guess that left the only reason that he was still coming after her, after all this time, was just because she's the one that got away.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more there's a little bit more connection later on in the movie that I'm not so sure that they're going to hold up to that. I think they might actually cave in and say, no, if they ever did a sequel, another sequel, I think they actually might cave in and say, no, those stories were true. He really was her brother.
I don't know. And part of me wonders too, and I'm trying to think back on this, and maybe you can correct me on this or set me straight. I don't even know for sure it was about him coming back to kill Laurie Strode. It may have been him just coming back to Haddonfield to kill people again. And that he just ran into her because of just the confluence of events. That's how he ended up at the house. Is he after her again specifically to finish the job? Or is it more just the way the film rolls is that's how... Because he doesn't seem to be, when he first gets to town, he's just wandering around house to house and taking people out, right? He doesn't seem to have a specific trail or a hunt.
That was one of the problems that I had with the movie is as soon as he gets back to town, and complete spoiler alert here, but as soon as he gets back to town and he started, the first house he goes to is a house that her, the granddaughter's best friend is babysitting at. Mm-hmm. What are the odds of that? And then
incidents. Yep.
He could have gone to any house and he goes there. And then, he goes after the granddaughter, which how would he even know that that's her granddaughter?
That's what I'm saying. That maybe he doesn't.
So it's that it just seems really coincidental. Like it could have been anybody in town.
Yeah.
And
well, maybe it's just a plot contrivance, and maybe that's then an indictment on the script. So who knows? I'm not sure about that.
That was my main issue with the storyline. But I did like that. I don't know. I did like that he was focused on Jamie Lee Curtis, and I still think the motivation there was she got away.
Right. I'm comfortable that if that's what the plan was from the very beginning. I just don't know if that is starkly indicated in the film. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Any other issue I had with it, I may say, is that maybe I found it visually a little underwhelming. I think that maybe we had an opportunity to do something really different instead of just delivering just an updated version and a direct sequel. Maybe we could have, I don't know, done something. But then you run into the issues, right, where you run into the zombie relaunch, Rob Zombie's relaunch, which is more just ultra violent and cruel, where we try and more and develop the history of Michael Myers and what made him who he is, which I don't know is necessarily needed. Right? It's one of those things where less is more, where having just be a being of pure evil without the backstory of abuse isn't, I don't know, maybe it's more terrifying that way. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And the Rob Zombie, at least the first one, I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But the less is more theory you just mentioned, it holds true. It really does. The backstory, while it made it more believable that he could turn into such an evil person.
Yeah.
Not having any reason, or at least not knowing it, made it a little more scary, actually.
Yeah, he's just a force of nature, right? He's just, it's the randomness is what brings the terror. And that's why I personally think the introduction of the relationship between the two, being brother and sister, somehow lessens the impact for me. That's all.
Yeah.
Do you have any other praises for the film? Any other issues that you had with it?
Praises, I thought everybody in it was really, really good. Even the secondary characters, I thought they all were just effective. They played the correct roles, I guess. But that's maybe more of a credit to the writing, which I also have to give it up to them. The writers did an awesome job. With those my little hiccups with the storyline, aside, they did a really good job with staying true to the original limits of the story, staying true to the limits of the characters, and not. I like that they didn't try to go down. I was really worried they were going to try to go down like the path of trying to be too funny or snarky or too much, too just making fun of the original more than paying tribute to it. And they didn't. They did such a good job with that. They stayed true to the original formula, and they while they didn't really add to the story like the first Halloween 2 did, they added to some of the mystery of Michael Myers a little bit. Some of the killing was the violence was really creative, and I liked that.
There were some interesting kills in this one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
No, I'll have to give credit to the gentleman for that. Not zombie sadistic, but still genuinely interesting and cool to see.
Oh, and one other critique I did have was the doctor, the new, I forget his name, but the new doctor,
the new Loomis, as she says.
Yeah, the direction they started to go in with him, it made me wish he wasn't in the movie at all. I didn't
mind that. I didn't mind his obsession with Michael, and then the arc his character takes. It wasn't totally out of left field for me. I didn't mind that so much. No.
Okay.
So I do have a big. I think I do have a big question for you, but we're going to save that for the lounge. I'm very excited about. I'm gonna tease it because this has been going the rounds on the internet, and I'll be curious. I'm gonna plant the seed now, Espo, and I want you to think about it. There is a scene in this film that potentially
I know what you're gonna say.
humanizes him, and I'm curious what you think about that. We'll get into that though in the second part of the show. All right. I personally think too. Here's how I look at it to wrap this up. I think this would have been a fitting end to the franchise. Now, we know it's not going to be because this thing was a massive success. It cost them $10 million to make. It's pulled in 172, and it won the weekend again this weekend for its second week out. So, and they had said, too, they already have an idea for part 2. They actually were going to film them back to back. But they said, well, let's not get a little ahead of ourselves. Let's see how the first one does, and then we'll move forward if it does well. So I think clearly there will be a sequel. The way they even shoot it, they leave room for a sequel.
Yeah.
I don't know if you stay to the end, too, at the very end of the credits, but there is some under the mask breathing as the credits end. Yeah, you just hear the, and then it goes black after the credits.
Damn it, Marvel, making people stay to the end. Like they made that a trend.
Right. So but part of me wishes, you know what, this would be it. Right? I think it'd be a great way to have gone out.
Yeah.
And then maybe in 10 years we'll launch it again. I don't know. But still, overall, I rather enjoyed this thing. I'm sitting with a B letter grade for the new Halloween.
Okay.
What about you? Any closing thoughts? And give me a grade.
Yeah, I'm good with the B plus maybe. What did you think about this sequel versus the original Halloween 2?
I think we pocket that for the lounge because we're gonna rank them all. And I don't want to reveal where I lay this film in regards to the original part 2 because I've ranked them all. So,
all right.
So you give it a B plus.
B plus, yeah.
All right, I like that. If you had a chance to see Halloween 2018, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Let's go ahead now and talk about what's coming up in Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday. And listen, I'm going to blow through this as quickly as I can, but there is a lot. So buckle up, pack a lunch, stay the day.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
What's the problem?
I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do.
What are you talking about, Hal?
This mission is too important for me to allow you to jeopardize it.
I don't know what you're talking about, Hal.
I know that you and Frank were planning to disconnect me. And I'm afraid that's something I cannot allow to happen.
Where the hell did you get that idea, Hal?
Dave, although you took very thorough precautions in the pod against my hearing you, I could see your lips move.
And that's why you can't trust those damn computers. So 2001 is getting a 4K release this upcoming Tuesday. That's October 30th. Espo, I was able to go see this in the theater. They did a 4K remaster and did a limited theatrical release of it. I got to tell you, it was awesome to see on the big screen again. And it was in IMAX too, so that was quite an experience.
Nice.
Some other stuff coming up. If you want to check out First Run episode number 418, you can hear our discussion of Mandy. Are you familiar with Mandy at all? You've been out of the loop for a while, I suppose, so you might not be aware of Mandy.
I don't think I am.
So Nick Cage has a lovely girlfriend, and she gets kidnapped by a cult, and she unfortunately does not survive, and he goes on a rampage, killing every single one of them. And it is an absolutely badass, insane movie that we loved. So you can pick up Mandy in Blu-ray here, include some deleted and extended scenes that are behind the scenes, making a featurette. A film Matt saw and rather enjoyed, Teen Titans Go to the Movies, is being released on Blu-ray. That's for all the kids and the kids at heart.
Oh, I saw that movie also.
How was that? Matt said it was good.
Yeah, it was
Very
pretty
funny.
good. It was cute. It was cute. It was fun, fun for the kids. Lots of fart jokes and stuff.
What more do you need?
That's right.
The Spy Who Dumped Me is coming out as well. That one starring Kate McKinnon and why am I blanking on her name from the 70s show?
Mila Kunis.
Thank you. Includes some deleted scenes and outtakes. The horror film Slender Man, based on the myth and legend of Slender Man, not the actual story, which I believe is a documentary you can watch on HBO, is being released. The Darkest Minds, from the producers of Stranger Things, which is kind of like some kids develop superpowers and they have to run away because there's people trying to stop them. That's being released. Includes some making of featurette, some deleted scenes, gag reels, character profiles, and the like. New to Blu-ray, after being delayed numerous times, it's finally coming out, Espo. Batman, the Animated Series, a complete set. New remasters of all the episodes, considered possibly the greatest animated cartoon of all time. Includes a new Heart of Batman featurette, and includes 3 Funko Pops if you buy the brand new Super Special Edition. Criterion is releasing The Princess Bride with a new 4K digital transfer. I think I have never bought this. I may now actually buy it now that's part of the Criterion collection. Includes a new program about Goldman's screenplay as well as about his tapestry based on the film. A bunch of archival interviews with the cast and crew. New interview with the art director Richard Holland and a bunch of other stuff. So it's Criterion. You're going to pick that up. Wow. Shout Factory is releasing Dragnet, starring Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks. Seminal film from my childhood, includes a brand new 4K remaster of the film, as well as new audio commentary by pop culture historian Russell Dyball. Were you a fan of Dragnet back in the day?
Yeah, definitely. I saw that movie like 100 times.
Well, now you can finally pick it up on Blu-ray. Shout Factory is also releasing Valley Girl, film starring another film with Nicolas Cage, a brand new 4K remaster of that one as well. Includes some new making of featurettes and interviews, including one with the director. Torso is being released by Arrow, which is a notorious Italian horror film. If you haven't seen it, it is a trip. Includes a new brand new 2K restoration. Includes both cuts of the film, the 94-minute Italian cut and the 90-minute English cut, and a whole bunch of new interviews. And I already have this, I believe from... Oh, no. You know what? I think I just have an old Blu-ray. This is a new Arrow special edition. I don't know if I'm going to be upgrading, though. Man, I don't know. Vinegar Syndrome is releasing a bunch of films, one of them, The Incubus. And let me tell you, I was in Connecticut a couple of weeks ago, and I went into a record store and movie store called The Attic, which is a great little store. And I'm talking to the guy at the register, and he's one of the guys there, and he says, "Oh, do you ever hear of Vinegar Syndrome? That's us. That's the second and third floors of this building." Vinegar Syndrome releases a lot of great kind of cult grindhousey film. They also dabble in the 70s adult fare as well, but they churn out a lot of great stuff. So we're going to be hitting them up hopefully soon for an interview or a guest spot on the show. I'm very excited. I got a couple t-shirts that I did not unfortunately get to wear tonight. If you watch us on the YouTube channel, one of them a John Carpenter shirt, which I'm dying to wear. Another one that helps promote the store as well. But they have a brand new 4K restoration of the film The Incubus, which is a quiet New England town becomes the site of a grisly murder and assault, leaving a young man dead and his girlfriend in critical condition. Sam Cordell, who's the head surgeon and medical examiner at the local hospital, senses something isn't quite normal about the attacker. But barely a day later, another woman is savagely assaulted and killed. With the realization that a maniac is on the loose, Sam, with the help of the police chief, Hank Weldon, and newspaper columnist Laurie Kincaid, must unravel the mystery before additional murders occur. So they're also putting out Blood Harvest. This one has Jill as she returns home from college to her rural farm community that she grew up in, only to discover that her parents have mysteriously vanished. Includes a brand new 4K restoration of that as well, and a brand new commentary by the producer and co-writer Leszek Brzezinski. They're also releasing The Killing Kind. After being released from prison for a brutal assault in which he too was a victim, Terry returns home to his mother's boarding house. Unable to cope with his freedom and uncertain about how to appease his ever-growing desire to harm those around him, Terry finds solace in playing violent practical jokes. That one includes a new 2K restoration from the original 35mm camera negative, as well as some archival featurettes, including a commentary track with David Dechtau of Rapid Heart and David Duvall of Sinister Image. And it's not done yet, Espo. They're also putting out Death by Temptation. Joel, played by James Bond III, who grew up in the church, but has stated questioning his beliefs. After sensing a supernatural presence from his deceased father, Joel becomes compelled to visit with his cousin, played by Kadeem Hardison, in New York. But shortly after
Really?
arriving, he and Kay become embroiled in a series of mysterious homicides of local men, all of whom were last seen in the company of a mysterious and beautiful woman who has now set her bloodthirsty sights on Kay. I remember this one specifically. I don't know if I ever watched it, but I remember it clearly. Features an early role by Sam Jackson as well. Brand new 2K restoration of this bad bear, as well as a brand new career-spanning audio interview with the writer, producer, and director, James Bond III. We're not done. They're also putting out The Bride's Initiation. On the way to their honeymoon, a lusty young couple find themselves kidnapped by their chauffeur and taken to Dracula's secret lair to be used in the diabolical rites to keep the Count young and virile. This one is a little bit naughty. It's a completely bonkers erotic horror comedy. A brand new 2K restoration of that one from the 35mm Vault Elements as well. Walmart is getting an exclusive release for a limited time of Happy Birthday to Me, a pretty good 80s horror film. Also getting released on Blu-ray for the first time, that's about DOA with Dennis Quaid, Out of Time with Denzel Washington, and the John Candy vehicle, Who's Harry Crumb. And then finally, we talked about 2001 being released on 4K. The Matrix trilogy, as part of a box set and individual releases, are all being released on 4K. Your straight-to-DVD pick of the week. I'm going to pronounce this correctly. Your ears are not deceiving you. Snake out of Compton. A young rap group is on the verge of signing its first record deal, Espo, just as a giant mutated snake threatens the city and the group's dreams of commercial success. Yes, that's Snake out of Compton.
Oh, they're not just on planes anymore.
That's right. Your streaming pick of the week. Did you have one? I don't know if I told you to pick one out. Matt usually grabs a streaming pick of the week. If you don't, I have one locked and loaded. Are you watching anything right now on Netflix? How about that? What are you watching?
Yeah, so I'm watching, let's see. I just watched The Haunting of Hill House.
I hear that's really good.
It is really good. It's not, I finished it the other night, and it is not what I expected, but it's really good. I think anybody would probably enjoy that. I just started watching season 3 of Daredevil. I'm watching season 6 of Arrow, which is sucky so far.
The last season, the most recent one's pretty good.
I think it's season 6 that I'm in, and it's not good. But
all right, you know what's really good if you haven't seen it? The last 2 seasons, Legends of Tomorrow, is the best superhero show on TV, and I love The Flash. But it is so bonkers and insane and fun that I absolutely love it.
It's sort of like critics either like it or hate it. So I haven't seen it yet, but I'm definitely interested. And what's the other thing I'm watching? There's also a series called Haunted that just appeared on there, and I've only seen one episode so far, but it's people telling scary true stories. There's only a couple episodes, but the first one was okay. We'll see.
I'm about 4 episodes in. Actually, I'm about to start the 4th episode of Making of a Murderer Part 2. So far, it's pretty good. But your legit streaming pick of the week, Espo, is going to be, because it's Halloween, Return of the Living Dead. This is a classic zombie horror film, written and directed by Dan O'Bannon, featuring the just dearly departed. He just passed away like a week ago, James Caron. He plays a foreman, Frank, who shows his new employee, Freddie, a secret military experiment in a supply warehouse. The 2 klutzes accidentally release a gas that reanimates corpses into flesh-eating zombies. This is a horror comedy right up there with like Shaun of the Dead, but obviously much older. And if you love zombies and you love having a great time, Return of the Living Dead is a classic. And also, this is the film that starts the brains part. So before this, it wasn't that they, brains. This
I didn't
Return
know
of the Living
that.
Dead is where this starts. Yes.
Oh.
So there you go. And of course, as always, this is your weekly reminder that Black Dynamite is available on Netflix.
I watched a little of that recently. I saw it on the menu and I couldn't help myself.
You can't.
Yeah.
Captain Kangaroo Pimp. Chef's kiss.
I only watched about the first 15 minutes till he was doing his kung fu, but then I had got my fill.
Interrupt me while I'm doing my kung fu. It's it. God, it is such a classic.
You suckers, get out of here. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right, we're gonna move on now. Let's go ahead and spend a few minutes to talk about Malevolent. Here first is a clip.
Sayers medium service. Yeah, we're the ghost hunters. This is my sister, the one with the gift. Here's the plan. Angela will pretend she sees a ghost. We'll put on a damn good show and make some money.
You said you heard screaming. Yes, angry, taunting. I just want a quiet house.
Sell it.
I've come to see if you would consider leaving this house.
Is this your usual routine for all your clients?
It's all an act. Angela's gift. You hear that? Something's here. Did you see her? I really thought you could help me.
Ange, it's just a house.
Place where you will not be interrupted.
I thought if you could hear the voices, you'd be able to stop them.
Malevolent. So Malevolent is a British import that's now newly on Netflix. They have a supernatural, paranormal, investigative team, brother and sister, and the sister is able to sense bad things going on, right? It's like Conjuring, except they're British and dull.
Well, they're not British, but the
film
right?
takes. Oh, they're not. I guess I didn't even think about that. They're not. I thought they were.
They're American. The brother and sister are American, and they're in Britain or in Scotland. They're in Scotland, I think.
That shows you how deeply invested in this thing I was.
You couldn't be.
They go to this house because they're going to scam this woman who says that there's these dead children in her home that are haunting her. They scream and cry and laugh, and it's driving her crazy. And she wants them to purge the house, and that's it. And it starts off, I thought, relatively strong, Espo, but then it takes this turn in the last third of the film that just doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
Do you agree, or am I wrong?
You are very right. The first like half of the movie, it's kind of a long setup, but it's still on track. You think that there's going to be something that makes sense at the end of this, but it never really does. And the further along you go, there's more and more pieces that just don't fit together.
Mm-hmm.
And it was terrible. Yeah,
I enjoyed parts of this thing. I think Florence Pugh, who plays Angela, and Celia Emery, who's the Mark, if you will, Mrs. Green, they're both, I think, quite good in this. Until, as I said, the thing that just unravels for the last act, the final third of it, because it starts off as a supernatural thing, and then it tries to be this kind of Eli Roth kind of torture type thing that it just doesn't earn. It's just it's. I never felt to an exceptionally strong narrative or directorial hand in this thing. There's some subplots that are kind of push the narrative, but they don't really go anywhere, and they're not very well defined. And neither are the characters. I really there was no emotional investment with me with any of this. So I mean, outside of the performances of Pugh and Emery, and maybe the first third of the film, maybe. Right, but that's as far as I can go. Overall, I'd have to say I was disappointed.
Definitely, yeah. It was a waste of time, and it's too bad. It could have been good.
Yeah, I mean, I love me these paranormal and investigator things. Where we're pulling a scam and then things go horribly wrong type thing. I'm on board. Sure.
Yeah, and a couple of the subplots that you mentioned, they could have turned into something really intriguing, but they didn't. They just sort of started the story and then just let it die and moved on to something else. Like they thought it'd be cooler to do this instead.
Yeah, it's the turn the thing takes. I know it's trying to would be this shocking turn. Like, holy crap, I did not see that coming. But the problem is you don't care. You don't care.
Yeah. Nope. At the end, I didn't care. I was just happy that it was over.
So there you go. I don't really have anything else to add about Malevolent. Do you?
No.
Fair enough.
I did see another Netflix movie. Emily. Has anybody seen?
Is it Brazilian?
It's American. It's Emelie, by the way.
Okay.
And sort of the broad setup is kind of a common one, the babysitter, and she's not actually good. But that took some weird turns, and I didn't end up really liking the movie. Part of the reason is because it just made me uneasy as a parent. So I guess that's a good thing. That means it was effective. But some of the turns that one took also, I didn't really agree with. But if anybody's looking for a movie that will make you uncomfortable, I would suggest checking that one out on Netflix.
Yeah, it's 88% right now on Rotten Tomatoes with 33 reviews. But the audience score is not terribly good. Only 41% of the people who watched it seem to enjoy it. For me, I'm going to give Malevolent a C-. I may be being a little generous there, but I enjoyed aspects of it until it just went off the rails in the end. What did you think? Give me a grade.
I'll give it a D.
D, huh?
Yeah, that's and I think that's being generous.
You're a nice guy. What can I say? That's Espo and his magic whiteout, as we used to say.
Yeah.
All right, those are our thoughts about Malevolent. Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Right. All right. Coming up next, oh yeah, it's gonna be Halloween time. We're gonna break down the franchises. We're gonna rank them. I got a big question. We're gonna open up the segment with. So let's go ahead and get into that right after this.
Why, Cochran? Why? Do I need a reason? Mr. Cuthbert was right, I do love a good joke, and this is the best ever. A joke on the children. But there's a better reason. You don't really know much about Halloween. You thought no further than the strange custom of having your children wear masks and go out begging for candy. It was the start of the year in our old Celtic lands, and we'd be waiting. In our houses of wattles and clay, the barriers would be down, you see, between the real and the unreal. And the dead might be looking in to sit by our fires of turf. Halloween. The festival of Samhain. The last great one took place 3,000 years ago when the hills ran red with the blood of animals and children.
So I have been praising Halloween 3 for decades, maybe. Yeah. I have always been a huge fan of that thing. And it's finally, I think the last maybe 5-6 years, getting its due as the great 80s horror film that it is.
What?
Yes. Yes. It is a fun, crazy little 80s horror. If it encapsulates everything that's wonderful about the 80s. You have some creepy, gory moments. You have a lead actor who would not be probably the lead actor in any other film if it wasn't for the 80s. And just some crazy effects. And it's got that gorgeous, I think potentially maybe John Carpenter's best score with him and Alan Haworth with that synth score that is just awesome. So if you listen to the show with any regularity, you'll know my affection for Halloween 3, and I will praise it every time I can. So here's the question, though, that I teased in the first segment, Matt. I wish. I don't wish. I'm happy you're here.
Aww.
Just kidding. So the passing up of the baby. There's a scene in the new film where Michael Myers walks by a crying infant in a crib, looks down, moves on. If he's the living embodiment of evil with no remorse and he's just cold, he's a shark, right? Why does he spare the baby? And what does it mean for you?
I think the reason for it is because I think the reason they put it in the movie was because up until then, you are just beat over the head with how inhuman he is and how he just kills everything he comes across. And I think that the point that makes it, first of all, it scares you, like, oh no, don't go there. Nobody wants to see this.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to try to make a point that this is like the baddest scary movie ever by going there, when no film should ever do that? And so it definitely puts you on the edge of your seat there. And then, so am I right to spoil what happens?
Well, yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's yeah, go ahead.
So then when he doesn't do anything and just, stops and pauses,
yep,
lets you think about it for a second and then moves on. I think it's obviously it's because they shouldn't have ever gone there, but now that they've made you think about it, they are establishing that it's not necessarily that he's killing everything. He's killing everything that's in his way. And that baby's not in his way. It's not doing anything to...
The mom in that house wasn't in his way. He walked in the window, walked around and into the house.
Yeah, but he went and got a knife. He makes
conscious decisions to go after these people. It's not like he didn't kill the two kids that ran into him when he was walking on the street, too.
That's true.
So there is, so I read about this online, and supposedly Green and the writers were discussing this. I guess they basically had time to kill in that scene, and they were trying to figure out what to do with it. So they said, well, let's put a kid in there and have him walk past it. But that it didn't seem to be any real deep thought about it. I don't know. Part of me is like, I don't want to see him kill that kid. But part of me doesn't want to acknowledge or attribute to him that he does have some humanity in him. What does that mean? And if he does, then does that make it scarier or less scary? What do you think?
I think less scary. Less scary.
Yeah. I don't,
because there's a possibility of reaching him on some level.
And that kind of, but doesn't that just kind of cut him off at his knees then?
Yeah, which is what the other ones did. But instead, the later movies, and I know we're going to get into those a little bit more, but the later movies, they did the same thing. They humanized him even more, by, his niece could talk to him somehow. But but then they cut him off, like you said, but then they added to his powers by making him more and more supernatural and, able to withstand death in every form.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm still torn about that. I'm not really sure what I think about the baby scene. I didn't want it to happen, but I also think it's antithetical to everything we've been taught about him over the years too. So I don't know. So let me ask you then. Let's move on since we don't have an answer. If you have an answer at home, shoot us an email, feedback@thefirstrun.com. That's the one that's been sitting with me that I can't really wrap my head around. So what's your favorite timeline? Is it the Carpenter timeline, which I also call the sister timeline, which is in parts 1, 2, and I'm throwing in 3 because it was his idea, 7 and 8. So that's parts 1, 2, 3, and then H2O and Resurrection, because Laurie Strode is in all of those except for 3 as his sister. Is it the Jamie supernatural timeline, where Michael then becomes a supernatural force and then out to kill his niece, which I guess would be parts 1 through 6 if you wanted to do it? Or would you go, 4 through 6? You say 1 through 6?
I would say 1 through 6.
Because they're all connected that way?
Yeah.
Is it the Rob Zombie timeline, which is Halloween 1 and 2, which would be episodes, if you will, or films 9 and 10? Or do you prefer the Green McBride timeline, which is films 1 and 11, the original, and then the brand new sequel? Out of those 4, so Carpenter's sister timeline, 1 through 3, 7 and 8. The Jamie, he's a supernatural force timeline, 1 through 6. Rob Zombie's 2 films, or this new version Part 1 and then this latest film. You have to choose one.
Are you asking me to choose one?
I'm asking you, what is your preference? Which one what's your favorite Michael Myers version? Is it Supernatural? Is it Laurie Strode's sister? Is it Rob Zombie? Or is it this sort of reboot / sequel with Green and Danny McBride?
You know what? I can't go with the first option just because H2O and Resurrection were so terrible. H2O was all right.
Yeah, it's okay.
But Resurrection, no way. And
yeah,
those two were so bad. I can't agree with that being my favorite. I think my favorite, as much as I know 4 and 5 make no sense. Well, make little sense.
And they're not good.
And they're not good. They're not good. But as much as they're not, I think that has to be my choice. This was awesome, and I love this 1 to 11. I love this timeline, but I grew up with the other one, and
nostalgia's tugging at your heart, huh?
Yeah, it's just such a richer history. This one, maybe a couple movies from now, if they keep making new ones, maybe I'll change my tune. For right now, I think there's too much there. As crazy as some of it is, but 1 through 6, with the exception of 3, which is a terrible movie, and we don't need to rehash that conversation.
How dare you?
But it's really bad, and everybody agrees except for you. But
incorrect.
But yeah, with the exception of 3, 1 through 6, there's something about them. It's like Friday the 13th. Yeah, there's most of them are not good, but you still love the series.
So you're going with Jamie's Supernatural timeline, 1 through 6.
I am. Yep.
Have you seen the producer's cut of The Curse of Michael Myers?
Yes.
6?
Yeah.
What do you think of that new version?
I don't remember the big difference between, but that's really only because there was so much time that passed between the two of them,
right?
That I couldn't really remember what had changed.
See, I watched them all. Like I said, as I said in the opening of the show, I have never seen 4, 5, and 6. I've seen all the others. I've not seen 4, 5, and 6. So I watched them all this past week. I actually just watched The Curse 2 days ago, and I watched the producer's cut of The Curse yesterday. So this is all very fresh in my mind. And I have to tell you that the producer's cut of The Curse of Michael Myers is not better. It's actually not as good as the theatrical release. Particularly the ending is much...
Well, he dies a different way, right?
Well, yeah. The ending is very... And he doesn't really potentially die in either one of them. So in the theatrical version, Paul Rudd pumps him full of this kind of tranquilizer that also has acid in it, I guess, or something. And he beats him with a lead pipe. And then they escape. Loomis goes in to take care of some business. And then all you hear is screams and it kind of goes black, basically. The producer's cut, they escape. Loomis goes in, and what happens is Paul Rudd stops Michael Myers by putting a bunch of ruins and some of his blood on the floor. And it says Sam Hain. And then Michael just freezes. And then they escape. And Loomis goes back in to finish business, and he finds Michael lying down, but it's actually the head of the cult. And then Michael is, spoilers by the way, I'm telling you the ending of the producer's cut. You see Michael in another shot walking down a hallway in the cult leader's jacket and hat, and Loomis looks down at his arm and sees the little thorn ruin icon show up in his wrist. So now he's the head of the cult. And he starts screaming, and then that's how that one ends, which doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
So, and also, the producer's cut isn't as violent, and it doesn't, and the kills aren't as intense nor as graphic. And if you're going in for this series and what you're looking, that's let's be honest, it's kind of part of what you're looking for.
Yeah,
especially after the first one, and we kind of dove into all that, and with the reshoots with the original part 2. Right, where it didn't have that, and Carpenter came in and did some kind of updating shots because the original film was more moody and gothic, right, and more about mood than it was about the violence. And Carpenter's like, well, that's what the kids want nowadays. So he went in and did a couple more, gore shots. So then the producer's cut is a little more, doesn't have as much as the theatrical version. So in the long run, I think the theatrical version is better. So anyway, what other issues did I have? I don't know. You know what my big thing is? I'm curious about your thoughts on this. I'm not a big fan of Supernatural, Michael. I think he's better as an unrelenting force, but still a man.
Yeah, I agree. I think they didn't have anything else to do.
Well, I think you're handcuffed, right? Because you make all these damn movies, they get killed off. You got to come up with a reason why he keeps coming back.
And there has to be an ending to each one, so they have to keep killing him, but
yeah. I don't know.
I think there was probably no choice but to go with the Supernatural option there. But the scene I know everybody has a problem with, and I do too, is at the end of 4 with the niece.
Which
and all of a sudden,
when she attacks her
all
mom.
of a sudden, yeah, that made no sense at all.
You know, it's funny. I didn't put it together until yesterday too. That the niece's name is Jamie.
Oh, like Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, like I don't know. I don't know why I didn't put that together until last night.
Was that on purpose?
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah.
You talk about coincidences. That's too crazy. All right, we're approaching an hour, which is not good for podcasts. You want to kind of keep it under an hour. Do you have any other thoughts about the franchise you want to share with me? If not, do you want to start ranking? What do you want to do?
Yeah, no, we can start ranking them. Yeah.
All right. So I'll start with the 11th best film in the franchise because there are 11 of them. The worst of the worst, which is Halloween Resurrection, where they're shooting a reality show in the old Myers house, and Mike is not a fan of that. And he goes and starts picking people off. And Jamie Lee Curtis is in this one too, and it's atrocious. And that's why it's the worst of the series.
That's a good pick. Mine is going to be 3.
All right, let's not. Whatever. I'm not even going to address that. Number 10 then is Halloween 5: The Revenge of. That one is it's really dumb. And this is where the supernatural elements really start to come into play here. And I feel that his menace is greatly reduced by that. So that's why it's the 10th.
At least they try to make you draw some kind of conclusion. Like they show like what you think is, is that the devil coming in to help him? I as see-through as it was kind of I don't know, it's kind of, at least they were trying to make you think, but
no,
I can't really argue with you on that one.
So is that your 10th? What's your 10th worst? No,
my 10th worst is Resurrection.
Okay,
yeah,
that's right, because of 3. God damn. All right, number 9 for me is then Return of Part 4, Episode 4, Star Wars in the brain. But at Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers after the cult classic that is Halloween 3, we give up and we go right back and bring Mike back. So there you go.
My number 9 is the Rob Zombie sequel, the second Rob Zombie Halloween.
That's my number 8, the 2009 Halloween Part 2, which for me is just mean. There's really, I can't think of anything really redeeming about that thing. So still better though than those other 3 films. But that's my number 8 is Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's second film. What about you? What's your 8?
Let's see.
You still have H2O. You have The Curse of. You have Zombie's first film.
I think I'm going to go with 5.
Okay.
5. Yeah.
No, I'm not keeping track. So if you're just doing this off the top of your head, it's up to you to keep track of these.
I've got it.
You are the Halloween man. All right. So my number 7 is Halloween H2O. And what I hate about Halloween Resurrection, which ties in, is at the end of Halloween H2O, she cuts his head off with a fire axe, and like that's
Which
it.
I
We're
thought
done.
was definitive. I thought like that is the end. They
Except
can't-
what? It's like a medical guy, an ambulance driver. What is it again? That he puts in his outfit is with the explanation in Resurrection, which is just so ridiculous.
Yeah.
But still, having Jim Lee Curtis back after 20 years was fun to see. So it's number 7 for me is Halloween H2O.
We've probably talked about this before, but you know Jamie Lee's mom is Janet Leigh.
You're right. Yeah.
Did you catch? Well, she was in H2O for a moment, right?
Right.
So did you catch when they show her? She's about to leave for the. I guess all the teachers and staff go away for the weekend or something. She's about to leave and she's walking towards her car, and they play in the background ever so slightly. They play music from Psycho.
I do remember that. Yeah.
I thought that was such a cool touch. Anyway,
what's your number 7?
My number 7 is it's going to be the. I hate to do it. It's going to be H2O.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're on board together finally.
Yeah.
So my number 6 then is Rob Zombie's first Halloween film for 2007. I like the brutality of it. It's not as sadistic as part 2. And there are parts of it that I did find interesting. So that's why it's my number 6.
That's my number 6 as well. I'm getting to the point, in this list where I like some at least something about the movies. They're not all crap. So anything above this point in the list, they're just about all crap. Now we're getting to the gold of the series, I guess.
Well, I think this would be more bronze. My number 5 is Halloween 6: The Curse of Michael Myers. Not only do we get the introduction of Paul Rudd into the big screen, which you have to applaud anything that brings.
Was that his
Paul
first
Rudd.
movie?
Yeah, well, it says introducing. Yeah,
wow.
Paul Rudd. So, and I think the original version of it had it. Like his middle name was included in his name, but I can't remember now what it was. But still, it's still conceptually, I like the idea. And here's where I'm going to sound like a complete hack and an idiot. I don't. If you're going to go with the supernatural thing to explain all of this stuff as to why he keeps coming back, all right, but do it really interestingly and get it, and make it fun, which this kind of does a little bit. Though I stand by my statement that he's better as just a guy. But the fact that I admire the fact that they tried to do something and tried to explain it, it's just not that successful, unfortunately. So it's number 5. It's bronze. It's okay, and it has some good moments, and I got Paul Rudd out of it, so I can't complain.
Yeah. Okay. I think my next one is, so we're at number 6, right?
5.
Number 5 is going to be the original Rob Zombie, the first Rob Zombie one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Again, things I liked about it, but I never even thought about it before, but the argument that not argument, but the statement you put out about the timelines, I think that's where I'm starting to just be loyal to the films that I really loved growing up. But yeah.
Fair enough. My number 4 then is going to be the original sequel from 1991, Halloween 2. Even though we get to introduction that she's his sister, it still has some really great effective moments in it. And I think possibly due to the reshoots of John Carpenter himself. But I mean, it is a pretty iconic scene when he gets shot in the eyes, right? And the blood's coming down the white of the mask. And there's the fireball kind of scene at the end. And it has some great moments in it. So that's why it's my number 4.
Okay. Mine is going to be the Curse of Michael Myers, part 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was my number 2 for a very long time. It has been booted, I think. Though I reserve the right to change my mind down the road. But the third best film in the franchise is Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I will accept no other answers. There is no argument against it.
I'm at least reassured that you don't hold that in higher regard than the original.
I don't. No, you take that home with you. Wouldn't it though have been interesting if they did a different horror film every year? Did kind of an anthology, like an American Horror Story for the cinema, basically, is what he wanted to do after part 2. Wouldn't that have been interesting?
It would
Instead
have,
of this
but
retread Michael stuff year and year and year over.
and that's fine. I would have been okay with that, but they should have done it under a different title. Halloween belongs to Michael Myers, and that there was so much more they could do with that character.
Oh yeah, clearly. Like maybe next time they could make him like a bionic soldier or put him into space like Jason. Or maybe have him be a dream warrior. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not saying they definitely did it, but everybody loved Michael Myers, and they had to keep bringing him back.
Yeah, they had.
So
to.
I think
So what's your 3?
Next one. So it's I feel like I have 4 of them left. I don't know if I skipped over one, but
See,
part
that's what you
4
get for not keeping track.
Well, part 4, the first one with the real supernatural stuff and his niece.
So you must have said one twice then, because you're right. You have Halloween, you have the new one, and you have Halloween 2, and you still only have 3 shots left. So you must have said something twice.
No, I didn't say anything twice. I think I skipped over a number. I think we were counting down, and I think I might have gone from like 8 to 6 or 7 to 5 or something like that.
Well, that's what happens when you don't keep track.
That's what happens when you get older.
Yes. All right, so give me a joint number 3 then. How about that? 3 and 3A.
I'm gonna go with this. No,
Part
this
4?
would be 3. This would be 3.
All right.
Yeah, no, this would be 3. It's the 2018 Halloween.
All right. Well, that's my number 2 now. I actually, the more I think about it, I think the more I enjoyed it, though I may flip-flop it with part 3, depending on how time goes and what I think about it. But I think David Gordon Green does a great job of revitalizing the franchise for the most part. And it is, for me, the true sequel to the first film. And he also, he brought back the Silver Shamrock masks. So I cannot complain about that at all.
He did?
There was one scene where the kids are trick-or-treating and all 3 of them walk by. Yes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't pick up on that.
So that's your number 2, folks.
Yeah, my number 2 is the original Halloween 2.
From the original sequel. So clearly the first one is the best in the franchise. It was a landmark horror film. The way he shot that thing, the introduction of how, as I said earlier, that this could happen in your neighborhood. The closing shots of the films, when he goes and shows the houses that everything took place, to show you in this just peaceful, sleepy town that everything can go horribly, horribly wrong in the blink of an eye, and that none of you are safe. The opening shots of the film through the killer's perspective, all, just these classic moments. Halloween is obviously the best in the franchise, the first film. What else would you like to say about that?
I agree with everything you just said, and that the beginning of the movie, before you even see anything really happen, on Halloween, but when you see, Jamie Lee Curtis walk into the house and dropping off the key or whatever, and walking to school, and she's talking to kids, and then she's waiting for her friends and talking to her friends. In fact, the TV version, there's a couple of scenes that they added in for the TV version. They filmed them like a year or 2 later, and they just added to this even more, that you just get such a good feeling of this town and this neighborhood and these friends. Like it's the kind of place where everybody knows each other and everybody feels safe. And I love that they do such a good job establishing that.
Yeah, that's great. That's a very good point. And I have to say too, for Halloween 6, the Curse of Michael Myers, the producer's cut, that would be 7.5 for me. I'd put that between H2O and Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's version, if I had to slot that in somewhere.
Okay.
So there you go. Any other thoughts on the Halloween franchise you'd like to share with the folks at home? Or on the road, or working out?
There was a scene at the end of this one, and I don't know if you thought about it at all, but they seemed to zoom in on this bloody knife laying next to the granddaughter right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know which direction they're going to go in for the next one, which it sounds like is inevitable. But are they going to go the supernatural route and say that Michael escaped from that fire somehow? Or are they going to do something like they did in part 4, where all of a sudden the niece, in this case the granddaughter, which is not even his granddaughter, but they're going to do something with her where she becomes the next Michael Myers.
Yeah, I don't know. I have no idea what's going to happen with any of that. We'll have to see how it shakes out. Good times. What's your favorite part of the Halloween franchise? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. I am keen to know. Next week, Espo, it's going to be The Old Man with the Gun, which we'll be checking out here. And then there's 2 things coming up that I'm not sure that are on Netflix that I'm desperate to see. One is The Night Comes From Us, which stars Iko Uwais from the Raid films. And there's also Gareth Evans' latest film, who directed those movies, Apostle. Both just debuted on Netflix. Both films I am desperate to see. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But I can guarantee you at least we'll be talking about The Old Man and the Gun. Good times, right. Good times. Coming up soon is Suspiria, Bohemian Rhapsody. So stuff's going to keep rolling. I got to tell you, check it in too, though I'll probably bring it up when Matt comes back. The Rotten Tomatoes score contest. I won with Halloween. I was the closest without going over. I had guessed 63. Matt had guessed 53. And it closed at 80 at noon on Friday. So there you go. Bohemian Rhapsody is next. I'm at 72. He's at 74. I think we are both going to be exceptionally over. Right now, it's at 55, which is not looking good. Yeah.
Bohemian Rhapsody?
Mm-hmm.
That's disappointing. I have high hopes for that.
Everything I've read basically is like, did they not see Walk Hard? It's supposed to be just a very rote kind of biographical film that's just is very cliched.
Wow.
Which, if you're doing a film about Freddie Mercury, is a GD travesty.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's going to be the big show for this week. Check us out on Twitter and Facebook. You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. You will eventually find us. Go over to Apple Podcasts. Kick us up a review, and I will read it on air. And that's plus, if you like the show, that's how other people are going to find us, people. That's it. We're also available on TuneIn and Stitcher. So that's going to be the big show for this week. We're going to take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
Please stand by.
Dark masks, gather round your TV set. Put on your masks and watch. All witches, all skeletons, all jack-o'-lanterns.
The third commercial, it's still on, please. Take off the third channel. The third channel, it's still running. Stop it, please. For God's sake, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to, please, stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it.